The stars shimmered outside the massive windows of the Galactic Council chamber. The station floated in the darkness of space, far from any sun or planet. Inside the Grand Hall, representatives from 1,000 different worlds sat in their assigned seats. Some looked like insects, others like floating clouds of gas, and some resembled creatures from nightmares. But they all shared one thing in common. They all followed the rules of the galaxy. Ambassador Zixthor walked to the center of the chamber. His scales reflected the blue light from above. He was tall, nearly 3 meters, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed red. The Krellian Empire had sent him to make an announcement. An important announcement. Honored council members, Zixthor began, his voice echoing through the chamber. The Krellian Empire claims the Sol system. We will take possession within 30 rotations. The system contains valuable minerals our empire requires. The primitive creatures living on the 3rd planet will become our subjects. The chamber fell silent, completely silent. Not a single being moved or spoke. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. Council Speaker Vornash slowly rose from his seat. He was old, very old. His species lived for thousands of years, and he had served the council for 3 centuries. His skin was gray and wrinkled like ancient stone. His eyes, however, were sharp and clear. Ambassador Zixthor, Vornash said quietly, I must ask you to reconsider this decision. Zixthor laughed. The sound was harsh and grating. Reconsider? Speaker Vornash, surely you joke. The humans are barely capable of spaceflight. They have a few small colonies on their moon and nearby planets. They possess no advanced weapons. They are not even members of this council. Why would the mighty Krellian Empire fear such insects? Around the chamber, other council members began whispering to each other. Some looked worried. Others looked terrified. A few began gathering their belongings as if preparing to leave immediately. Vornash closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were filled with something that looked like sadness. Ambassador, there are things you do not understand. Things your empire does not know. I beg you to withdraw your claim. Begging. Zixthor's laugh grew louder. The great council speaker begs. This council has grown weak. You hide behind words and treaties while the Krellian Empire takes action. We have 500 warships. The humans have perhaps 80 small vessels. This will not even be a real battle. It will be an afternoon's exercise for our fleet. Dr. Krellick, the council's head xenobiologist, stood up. His tentacles waved in agitation. Please, Ambassador. Listen to us. The Sol system is under quarantine for a reason. A very good reason. A quarantine? Zixthor snorted. Yes, I read about that in the old records. You quarantined them 200 years ago because of some minor incident with pirates. The council has become paranoid in its old age. Minor incident? Vornash's voice rose slightly. Ambassador, a single human ship with 40 crew members destroyed an entire pirate fleet of 200 vessels. They turned their own reactor into a weapon and killed themselves just to take the pirates with them. The 3 survivors were still singing war songs when we found them. Zixthor waved a dismissive hand. An old story, probably exaggerated over time. Even if true, it was one ship. Pirates are not a professional military force. The Krellian Navy has never lost a war in 3,000 years. We will not lose to a species that has barely left its own planet. Vornash looked around the chamber. He saw fear in the eyes of the other ambassadors. They all knew what he knew. They all remembered the stories. The warnings. The classified reports that were locked away in the deepest archives of the council. Then I formally request an emergency session, Vornash announced. I invoke Article 12 of the Council Charter. I request that all council members vote on whether to intervene in this situation. Zixthor's eyes blazed with anger. The Krellian Empire does not answer to this council. We are sovereign. We make our own decisions. Your vote means nothing to us. Then you leave us no choice, Vornash said. He sat down heavily, looking suddenly even older than before. May the ancient stars have mercy on your fleet, Ambassador. Because the humans will not. Zixthor turned and walked out of the chamber. His heavy footsteps echoed on the metal floor. Behind him, the council erupted into chaos. Ambassadors shouted at each other. Some demanded action. Others called for evacuation of nearby systems. A few began making emergency calls to their homeworlds. Dr. Krellick approached Vornash. Should we send a direct warning to the Krellian fleet? Yes, Vornash replied. Contact Admiral Thalcor immediately. He is an old friend. Perhaps he will listen where the ambassador did not. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, Earth spun peacefully in space. The blue planet glowed with life. Clouds swirled across oceans. Lights from cities twinkled in the darkness of the night side. Orbital stations circled above, and ships moved between Earth and its colonies on the Moon and Mars. In a deep mountain facility on the western coast of North America, Major Lisa Chen sat at her console. She monitored deep space telemetry feeds. It was usually boring work. Space was vast and empty. Days would pass without anything interesting appearing on the screens, but today was different. "Sir," Lisa called out to her supervisor, "I'm picking up unusual readings at the edge of the solar system. Multiple contacts, very large contacts." Commander Kevin Parker walked over quickly. He was a veteran of 20 years in United Earth defense. He had seen many things, but the look on Lisa's face concerned him. She was not someone who worried easily. "Show me," Kevin said. Lisa brought up the readings on the main display. Red dots appeared at the edge of the system, near Neptune's orbit. There were many red dots, too many to count quickly. "Computer, count contacts," Kevin ordered. The computer's calm voice responded. 497 distinct contacts detected. Configuration consistent with military vessels. Size classification, capital ships. Kevin felt his blood run cold. "Get me General Brooks at Central Command. Now." While Lisa opened the communication channel, Kevin stared at the display. Nearly 500 ships. That was an invasion force. That was a fleet meant to conquer a planet. But who would want to invade Earth? Humanity had only known about alien life for a short time. The few exploration ships that had traveled far into space had found evidence of other civilizations, but there had been no contact. No communication. No warning. General Brooks appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and hard eyes. "Commander Parker, what do you have?" "Sir, we have unknown contacts at Neptune's orbit. 500 ships. Military configuration." Brooks was silent for 3 seconds. Then he said, "I'm initiating Defense Protocol Alpha. Recall all Earth fleet vessels immediately. Activate the perimeter system, and get me President Hoffman on secure line." The screen went dark. Kevin turned to Lisa. "Start tracking those contacts. I want to know their speed, trajectory, and estimated arrival time at Earth orbit." Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Estimated arrival time, 72 hours at current speed, sir. 3 days. Earth had 3 days to prepare for whatever was coming." Kevin picked up his phone and started making calls. First to the naval yards where Earth's warships were stationed, then to the hidden weapon platforms scattered throughout the solar system, then to the civilian evacuation coordinators. Above Earth, in the orbital command station, Captain Danny Russell received the alert. He was commander of the UHS Defiance, one of Earth's newest warships. He had been overseeing repairs to his ship when the message came through. "All ships, prepare for immediate deployment. Unknown hostile force approaching solar system." "This is not a drill." Danny read the message twice. Hostile force. After decades of peace, after humanity had finally started reaching for the stars with hope instead of fear, someone was attacking them. He activated his ship's communication system. "All crew report to stations immediately. Cancel all shore leave. Prepare for combat operations." Around him, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Other ships powered up their engines. Dock workers scrambled to disconnect fuel lines and remove repair equipment. The entire orbital facility transformed from a peaceful workplace into a war zone in minutes. On Earth, in the capital city, President Claire Hoffman sat in the Situation Room deep beneath the government complex. Around the table sat her top military advisors and cabinet members. Large screens on the walls showed the tracking data from deep space. "Options," Claire said simply. She was a small woman, but her voice carried authority that made generals listen carefully. Defense Secretary Greg Martinez spoke first. "Madam President, we have 83 operational warships. Another 12 will be ready within 24 hours. The perimeter system has 340 automated defense platforms. We also have the asteroid belt installations." "Against 500 enemy vessels," Claire said. "What are our chances?" A uncomfortable silence filled the room. Finally, Admiral Beth Crawford spoke up. She commanded Earth's entire space navy. "Honestly, Madam President, if they have superior technology, we cannot win a conventional battle. Our only hope is that they underestimate us. Then we make sure they do," Claire said. "Admiral Crawford, prepare the—" Admiral Thalcor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Pride of Krelia. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of his 500 warships. They moved through space in perfect formation. Each ship was a masterpiece of Krellian engineering. Each carried enough firepower to destroy a city. The admiral was proud. This would be an easy conquest. The humans had barely any military presence in space. Their technology was primitive. The Krellian Empire would add another system to its territory, and Admiral Thalkor would earn another medal for his collection. A communication officer approached. "Admiral, we are receiving an encrypted message from the Galactic Council. Priority level maximum. It is marked for your eyes only." Thalkor frowned. "The Council rarely contacted military commanders directly. Transfer it to my private chamber." He walked to his office behind the bridge and sealed the door. The message appeared on his screen. It was from Vornash. They had known each other for many years, back when Thalkor was a young officer and Vornash was already an important council member. The message began playing. Vornash's face filled the screen. He looked tired and worried. "Old friend," Vornash said, "I am sending you this message because I hope you will listen where others will not. You must turn back. You must not attack Earth. Please, I beg you, trust me on this." Thalkor was surprised. Vornash was not someone who begged. He was calm and logical. "Always." The message continued. "I know what you are thinking. You believe the Council has grown weak. You think we fear shadows and ghosts, but I am sending you classified files. Watch them, read them, then make your decision." The screen changed. A new file began playing. It was footage from 200 years ago. The quality was poor but clear enough to see what happened. A human ship drifted in space. It was small and damaged. Smoke leaked from several holes in its hull. Around it circled dozens of pirate vessels. They were laughing on the communication channels, making jokes about the helpless humans. Then everything changed. The human ship suddenly accelerated directly toward the largest pirate vessel. Warning alarms sounded. The pirates tried to move away, but they were too close, too confident. They had surrounded their prey. The human ship rammed into the pirate flagship. There was a bright flash, then another, then a massive explosion that filled the entire screen with white light. When the light faded, there was nothing left. Not the human ship, not the pirate flagship, not any of the 200 pirate vessels that had been nearby. Just debris and radiation. The recording switched to another view. A small escape pod tumbled through space. A rescue ship approached it carefully. When they opened it, 3 humans were inside. They were injured and burned, but they were singing. Actually singing, the recording ended. Another file appeared. This one was a written report from Dr. Krellick, the Council's xenobiologist. Thalkor began reading. The report detailed the psychological profile of humanity. It explained how humans reacted to threats, how they fought, how they never ever surrendered. The report included a word that made Thalkor stop reading. The word was spite. Humans, the report explained, would sometimes sacrifice everything just to hurt an enemy. They would destroy themselves if it meant destroying you too. They had a concept called mutually assured destruction, where they built weapons specifically designed to kill everyone, including themselves, rather than accept defeat. The report went on to describe human military history. How they had fought each other for thousands of years. How they had developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet. How they had nearly wiped themselves out several times, but always kept fighting. Another file appeared. This one showed human weapons, nuclear bombs, biological weapons, chemical agents, orbital strikes, things that were banned by every civilized species in the galaxy because they were too cruel, too destructive. Humans had invented them all. The final file was a recommendation from the Council Science Division. It stated clearly, humanity must remain isolated until they reach Type 2 civilization status. They are too dangerous for contact. If threatened, they will fight with total commitment. They do not understand limited war. For humans, every war is total war. Thalkor sat back in his chair. He read the files again, then a third time, then he opened his communication channel. "Get me Ambassador Zixthor immediately," he ordered. A few minutes later, the ambassador's face appeared on the screen. He was on the council station preparing to return to the Krellian homeworld. "Admiral," Zixthor said cheerfully, "I hope you are calling to report an early victory." "I am calling to recommend we abort this mission," Thalkor said. Zixthor's smile vanished. "Why?" "I have received information from the council. The humans are more dangerous than we thought. Dangerous? Zixthor laughed. Admiral, surely you are not frightened by Council propaganda. They exaggerate everything to maintain their authority. You have 500 ships. The humans have less than 100. How can they possibly be dangerous? Thalcor sent him the files. Watch these. Read the reports. Then tell me if you still think this is propaganda. Zixthor was silent for several minutes while he reviewed the files. When he finally spoke, his voice was dismissive. So they are willing to die for their planet. Many species are. That does not make them dangerous. It makes them predictable. You did not read the psychological analysis, Thalcor said. Humans do not just fight to defend. They fight to destroy. There is a difference. Then we will destroy them first, Zixthor said. Admiral, I have already reported this mission to the Emperor. If we turn back now, we will appear weak. The Krellian Empire does not show weakness. You have your orders. Conquer the Sol system. The communication ended. Thalcor sat in his chair staring at the dark screen. He had been a military commander for 70 years. He had fought in 12 wars. He had won every battle he commanded. But for the first time in his life, he felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Back on the council station, Vornash received confirmation that his message had been delivered and viewed. But there was no response from Thalcor. The fleet continued moving toward Earth. Dr. Krellick entered Vornash's office without knocking. His tentacles were moving rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. They are not turning back, he said. I know, Vornash replied. We should warn the humans. We cannot. The quarantine protocols forbid any communication with Earth. The protocols were designed to protect them from us, Dr. Krellick said, not to prevent us from warning them about an attack. Vornash considered this. Even if we could warn them, what would we say? That a fleet of 500 advanced warships is coming to enslave them? It would only cause panic. The humans should at least know who they are fighting and why. They will figure it out soon enough, Vornash said quietly. The humans are many things, but stupid is not one of them. On Earth, the preparations continued. Admiral Beth Crawford stood in the command center of the Orbital Defense Station. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations. Screens showed the positions of Earth's fleet and the approaching enemy. Status report, Beth ordered. Captain Danny Russell's face appeared on the screen. He was aboard the UHS Defiance, which was now fully operational and moving into position. Madam Admiral, we have 95 ships ready for combat. The perimeter system is active. All civilian vessels have been moved to safe orbits or evacuated to the surface. Good. What about the asteroid field? Danny smiled slightly. The mining teams are moving the last platforms into position now. If the enemy comes through that corridor, they will get a surprise. Beth nodded. Humanity had been mining asteroids for decades. They had learned how to move them, how to process them, how to hollow them out. Now they were going to use that knowledge for war. Hundreds of asteroids had been equipped with engines and guidance systems. They were not fast or elegant, but they were massive and deadly. Each one could destroy several ships if it hit them. On the surface, President Claire Hoffman addressed the world. Every screen on Earth showed her face. She stood behind a simple podium wearing a dark suit. Her expression was calm but serious. My fellow humans, she began. I am speaking to you today to inform you of a situation. An unknown alien fleet is approaching our solar system. We do not know who they are or what they want, but we must assume they mean us harm. She paused, letting that sink in. Around the world, billions of people stopped what they were doing and listened. Our military is preparing to defend Earth. We have brave men and women in uniform who are ready to protect our home. But I want every person listening to understand something important. This is our home. This is our planet. No one has the right to take it from us. Her voice grew stronger. Humanity has faced many challenges in our history. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We have always survived because we refuse to give up. We refuse to surrender, and we will not start now. She leaned forward. To whoever is coming here, I want you to hear this message. Turn back, leave our system. We do not want war. But if you bring war to our home, we will fight, and we will make you regret it. The broadcast ended. Around the world, people began moving to shelters. Families hugged each other. Some cried. Others prepared weapons. Earth's population had grown soft during the years of peace. The Krellian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 500 massive warships materialized in space near Neptune's orbit. Their shields glowed with power, their weapons charged automatically. They were the pride of the Krellian Empire, and they had never known defeat. Admiral Thalcor studied his tactical display. The human planet was still far away, several days of travel at normal speeds. But he wanted to send a message first, a demonstration of power that would make the humans understand they could not win. Open all communication channels, he ordered. Broadcast in all known languages. A communications officer nodded. Channels open, Admiral. Thalcor took a breath and began speaking. His words were translated into 17 different galactic languages, including the primitive Earth languages that humanity used. Attention, inhabitants of the Sol system. This is Admiral Thalcor of the Krellian Imperial Navy. Your system is now claimed by the Krellian Empire. You will surrender immediately and submit to our authority. Any resistance will be met with total destruction. You have 1 standard galactic hour to respond with your unconditional surrender. The message transmitted across space at the speed of light. It would take several hours to reach Earth. Thalcor settled into his command chair to wait for the humans to accept reality. Aboard the UHS Valiant, Admiral Beth Crawford received the transmission. She listened to it twice, her expression never changing. Around her, the bridge crew waited for orders. Well, Beth said finally, at least they are polite enough to introduce themselves before trying to conquer us. A few crew members laughed nervously. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut. Prepare response message, Beth ordered. Direct it to the lead vessel. She waited while the communication system locked onto the Krellian flagship. Then she began speaking, her voice calm and professional. Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Beth Crawford of the United Human Space Forces. You have entered sovereign Earth territory without authorization. You have 30 minutes to reverse course and leave the system. This is your only warning. Any hostile action will be met with lethal force. She closed the channel. One of her junior officers looked worried. Admiral, they have 500 ships. We only have 95. Should we not try to negotiate? Beth turned to look at him. Her eyes were hard. Lieutenant, they came here to enslave us. You do not negotiate with slavers. You kill them. The message reached the Krellian fleet. When Admiral Thalcor heard it, he laughed. Actually laughed. His bridge crew joined in. The idea that this tiny human fleet would threaten them was absurd. They have courage, Thalcor admitted. I will give them that much. But courage without power is just stupidity. He decided to make a demonstration, to show the humans that resistance was pointless. He chose one of Neptune's smaller moons as a target. Target the 4th moon, he ordered. Fire main batteries. Show them what our weapons can do. 20 Krellian warships turned their massive cannons toward the small moon, each weapon charged with enough energy to destroy a city. Then they fired simultaneously. The moon exploded. It simply ceased to exist. Chunks of rock and ice blasted outward in all directions. Where a moon had orbited moments before, there was now only debris and dust. Thalcor nodded with satisfaction. Send them footage of that. Let them understand what they face. The video transmission reached Earth. President Claire Hoffman watched it in the Situation Room. She saw the moon explode. She saw the raw power of the alien weapons. Around the table, her advisors looked grim. That could be Earth, Defense Secretary Greg Martinez said quietly. It will not be Earth, Claire said firmly. Admiral Crawford, you may proceed with Defensive Plan Omega. In orbit, Beth Crawford smiled grimly. Plan Omega. She had hoped she would never need to use it, but she had prepared for this possibility since the day she took command. Send the signal, she ordered. Activate all perimeter defenses, and tell the mining crews to start the engines. Throughout the solar system, hundreds of asteroids suddenly came to life. They had been positioned carefully over the past 72 hours, using every mining ship and tug humanity possessed. Now their hidden engines ignited. Aboard the Krellian flagship, a sensor officer suddenly shouted, Admiral, multiple contacts! Hundreds of objects are moving. Thalcor jumped from his chair. Where? Show me! The tactical display lit up with red markers. They were everywhere. Asteroids, large and small, were accelerating throughout the space between Neptune and Uranus. But they were not moving randomly. They were moving into specific positions. What are they doing? Thalcor demanded. His tactical officer studied the patterns. Her face went pale. Admiral, they are blocking our retreat vectors. If we continue forward, we will be trapped. Thalcor stared at the display. The humans had just moved hundreds of asteroids into position. That required incredible coordination. It required planning. It meant they had known his fleet was coming and had prepared this trap in advance. But how? The Krellian Empire had kept this mission secret. Unless the Council had warned them. "Scan those asteroids," Thalcor ordered. "Are they armed?" "Negative, sir. They are just rocks." "But they are very large rocks moving very fast. If they collide with our ship," Thalcor understood, "the humans could not match his firepower. So they were using mass and velocity instead. Simple physics. Elegant and terrifying. All ships combat formation," he ordered. "Prepare to engage enemy fleet. Destroy any asteroid that comes within range." The Krellian fleet began moving forward again, but more cautiously now. Their formation tightened. Weapons tracked the moving asteroids carefully. Then the human fleet appeared. 95 warships emerged from behind the larger asteroids where they had been hiding. They were smaller than the Krellian vessels, but they moved fast. Very fast. Captain Danny Russell stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiance watching his tactical display. The enemy was exactly where Admiral Crawford had predicted they would be, trapped between the asteroids and the human fleet. "All ships execute attack pattern Delta," he ordered. "Stay mobile. Do not let them target you." The human ships split into groups. Each group of 5 or 6 vessels worked together, darting between the larger Krellian warships like wolves harassing a bear. They fired their weapons at the enemy shields, testing them, probing for weaknesses. The Krellian ships tried to target them, but the humans were too fast and too unpredictable. They did not follow any tactical doctrine that the Krellians recognized. They seemed to make decisions randomly, changing direction without warning. Aboard the Pride of Krelia, Admiral Thalcor watched in frustration as his ships tried to hit the darting human vessels. "What kind of tactics are these?" he demanded. "They fight like insects." "They are targeting our sensor arrays," his tactical officer reported. "Not trying to destroy us. Just blind us," Thalcor suddenly understood. The humans could not penetrate Krellian shields with their weapons. So they were not trying to. They were trying to disable the sensors and communications that held the fleet together. "All ships maintain formation," he ordered. "Do not break ranks to chase them." But it was too late. Several Krellian captains had already ordered their ships to pursue the annoying human vessels. They broke formation, leaving gaps in the defensive line. And that was when the asteroid struck. 3 massive rocks, each the size of a building, slammed into the pursuing Krellian ships. The impact was catastrophic. Shields flared and collapsed. Metal tore apart like paper. 2 ships exploded completely. The third tumbled away, dead in space, its hull breached in dozens of places. "Reform the line," Thalcor shouted. "Stay together." But the damage was done. The human ships had baited his captains into making mistakes, and now more asteroids were accelerating toward his fleet, guided by the small human vessels that dodged between them. On Earth, President Claire Hoffman watched the battle unfold on the main screens. She saw the first Krellian ships destroyed. She saw her people fighting with everything they had. "How many casualties?" she asked quietly. 2 ships damaged, 1 destroyed," an aide reported. 412 dead." Claire closed her eyes briefly. 400 people, and the battle had just started. But she could not show weakness now. The world was watching. "Tell Admiral Crawford to continue the attack," she said. In space, Captain Sophie Hayes commanded the experimental vessel UHS Reaper. Her ship was different from the others. It carried a new weapon that had never been tested in real combat, a weapon that most scientists thought was suicide to use. Quantum displacement torpedoes. They did not travel through space. They teleported directly into the target, bypassing shields completely. But the radiation from each firing would slowly kill the crew of the firing ship. Sophie had volunteered for this mission, knowing she and her crew would not survive. 200 people had agreed to die to give Earth a chance. "Target the enemy command ship," Sophie ordered. "Prepare to fire all tubes." Her tactical officer looked at her. "Captain, if we fire all torpedoes at once, the radiation exposure will be instant. We will have maybe 10 minutes. Then we better make them count," Sophie said. "Lock targets." The Reaper accelerated toward the Krellian fleet. Alarms sounded on every enemy ship as the sensors detected the strange signature of the human vessel. But before they could react, the Reaper fired. The battle continued with a ferocity that shocked the Krellian forces. They had expected a quick surrender, or at most a brief fight before the humans accepted defeat. Instead, they found themselves in a grinding war of attrition against an enemy that refused to acknowledge they were losing. Admiral Thalcor stared at his tactical display. In the past 4 hours, he had lost nearly 150 ships. The humans had lost 30. The mathematics were in his favor, but the trend was terrifying. At this rate, his fleet would be destroyed before the human fleet was. How? He whispered.
How are they doing this?
His tactical officer pulled up recordings of the battle. Admiral, they are not fighting by any known doctrine. Look at this. The screen showed a group of 5 human ships. They approached a Krellian cruiser at high speed. The cruiser fired its main weapons, but the human ships split apart at the last second, dodging the shots. Then they reformed behind the cruiser and focused all their fire on the engine section. They are targeting specific systems, the tactical officer explained. Life support, communications, sensors, engines. They do not try to destroy our ships. They try to disable them. Another recording showed a different tactic. A human destroyer had been severely damaged and was drifting. A Krellian battleship approached to finish it off. Then the human ship exploded, taking the battleship with it. They are using their damaged ships as mines, the tactical officer said. They rig them to explode when enemy vessels come close. Thalcor felt sick. They kill their own wounded? No, sir. Life signs show the crews evacuate first, but they program the ships to explode. They waste nothing. Captain Danny Russell watched the battle from the bridge of the UHS Defiance. His ship had taken damage, but the crew had kept it operational. Around him, his people worked with focused intensity. Sir, the Krellian fleet is trying to break through Sector 7, his tactical officer reported. Admiral Crawford is requesting support. Take us there, Danny ordered. All power to engines. The Defiance accelerated hard. The artificial gravity system struggled to compensate, and Danny felt the weight pressing him into his chair. But they needed to be fast. The Krellians were learning. They were adapting their tactics. If they broke through the human formation, they could reach Earth. Activate the swarm, Danny ordered. On his command, hundreds of small fighter craft launched from hidden positions throughout the asteroid field. They had been waiting, powered down and invisible to sensors. Now they came to life like a nest of angry hornets. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper was one of those pilots. His fighter was called a Striker, a small one-person vessel with minimal armor and maximum speed. It was barely more than an engine with a cockpit and weapons attached. All Striker units, this is command, a voice said over the radio. Your target is the enemy formation in Sector 7. Attack pattern, Charlie. Make every shot count. Ryan checked his weapons. He had 6 missiles and a laser cannon with enough power for maybe 20 shots. After that, he would be useless in combat. Unless he decided to ram something, he smiled grimly. Ramming was always an option. Striker Squadron 12, form on me, he said to his wingmates. Let's show these aliens how humans fight. The Strikers rushed toward the Krellian fleet like a swarm of deadly insects. The enemy point defense systems opened fire, filling space with beams and projectiles. Strikers exploded one after another. But there were too many of them. For every one destroyed, 10 more kept coming. Ryan picked his target, a Krellian cruiser that was firing its main guns at a human destroyer. He dove his Striker through a storm of defensive fire, relying on speed and tiny random movements to avoid getting hit. His fighter took a glancing blow that melted part of his left wing, but he kept going. At the last second, he fired all 6 missiles directly at the cruiser's communication array. The missiles struck perfectly. The array exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. Target disabled, Ryan shouted. Then he pulled hard on his controls, trying to escape before the cruiser could target him. He almost made it. A lucky shot from a point defense turret caught his engine. The Striker began tumbling out of control. Alarms screamed in his cockpit. His fuel cells were ruptured and leaking. He had maybe 2 minutes before his ship exploded. Ryan looked at his tactical display. There was a Krellian command ship nearby, the same type of ship that had destroyed Earth Station Alpha earlier, killing 3,000 civilians. He turned off his alarms. He stopped trying to fix his ship. Instead, he aimed directly at the command ship and locked his throttle to maximum. This is for Alpha Station, he said quietly. His Striker hit the command ship at full speed. The explosion was small compared to the massive vessel, but it breached the hull right where the bridge was located. Atmosphere vented into space. The command ship went dark and began drifting. Ryan Cooper died instantly. He was 24 years old. He had been engaged to be married, but he had volunteered for the Striker program knowing the survival rate was less than 10%. He was one of 42 Striker pilots who died in that attack. But they disabled or destroyed 19 Krellian capital ships. Aboard the Pride of Krelia, Admiral Thalkor received the casualty reports. 200 ships left, less than half his original force, and they were still dozens of hours away from Earth itself. "Sir, we should retreat," his tactical officer said. "While we still can." Thalkor wanted to agree. Every instinct told him to run. But he had his orders. The Krellian Empire did not retreat. It did not show weakness. "Send a message to the remaining fleet," he said tiredly. "All ships will concentrate fire on the human capital ships. Ignore the small craft. Destroy their command vessels." It was a sound strategy. Without coordination, the human fleet would fall apart. But Thalkor had made one critical mistake. He assumed the humans needed their command ships to fight. Admiral Beth Crawford saw the Krellian formation change. She understood their plan immediately. They were going to target her ship and the other heavy cruisers. "All capital ships scatter," she ordered. "Do not group together. Make them chase us." Her communications officer looked worried. "Admiral, if we scatter, we will lose tactical coordination." Beth smiled coldly. "Lieutenant, do you honestly think our people need coordination at this point? Look at them. They know what to do." She was right. The human ships did not need orders anymore. Every captain, every crew member understood the mission. Defend Earth. Make the enemy pay for every meter of space. The UHS Defiance took a direct hit from a Krellian dreadnought. The shield collapsed and the hull armor melted. Half the crew died instantly. Captain Danny Russell was thrown from his chair. When he got up, his bridge was on fire and full of bodies. "Damage report," he coughed through the smoke. "Main weapons offline," a surviving crew member said. "Life support failing." "We have maybe 10 minutes of air." Danny nodded. He looked at his tactical display. It was barely working, but it showed the Krellian dreadnought that had hit them. The ship was damaged too. Its shields were down for recharging. "How much power do we have left?" Danny asked. "Engines are at 20%, sir." "Good enough," Danny said. He sat back in his captain's chair and opened the ship-wide communication. "All hands, this is the captain. Abandon ship. Get to the escape pods now. That is an order." He waited until the evacuation alarm confirmed all pods had launched. Then he aimed his dying ship at the Krellian dreadnought and pushed the engines to maximum. The Defiance accelerated one last time. Its damaged hull began breaking apart from the stress, but it held together long enough to crash into the enemy ship. The reactor breach destroyed both vessels completely. Danny Russell died doing his duty. He was 47 years old. He had 2 children on Earth who would grow up without their father. But because of him, a Krellian dreadnought would never threaten anyone again. On Earth, President Claire Hoffman sat in the Situation Room watching the casualty numbers climb. 12,000 dead, 15,000 wounded, 28 ships destroyed, 56 damaged, but the Krellian fleet was down to 150 ships. "Madam President," Defense Secretary Greg Martinez said quietly. "We are winning." "No," Claire said. "We are surviving. There is a difference." On the main screen, new data appeared. The orbital telescopes had detected something. The Krellian fleet was changing formation again. They were grouping together, making themselves a more concentrated target. "What are they doing?" Claire asked. A military analyst spoke up. "They are preparing for a final push, Madam President. They are going to try to break through to Earth no matter the cost." Claire looked at Admiral Beth Crawford on the communication screen. "Admiral, can we stop them?" Beth was silent for a moment. "Honestly, Madam President, I do not know. We have hurt them badly, but they still have superior firepower. If they are willing to sacrifice everything to reach Earth, they might make it." "Then we use the final option," Claire said. Everyone in the Situation Room went quiet. They all knew what the final option was. They had hoped it would never be necessary. "The sun guns," Claire said. "Activate them." In orbit around the sun, 3 massive platforms had been built over the past decade. They were officially called solar energy collectors. That was true. But they were also weapons. They could focus and redirect solar radiation into powerful beams. The battle was over. The debris field stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Wreckage from both human and Krellian ships drifted in the darkness. Escape pods floated between the chunks of metal and plastic, their distress beacons flashing weakly. Admiral Beth Crawford stood on the bridge of her flagship, which had survived with heavy damage. She looked exhausted. She had been awake for 36 hours straight, commanding the defense of Earth. Her uniform was dirty with smoke and blood, some of it her own. "Status of rescue operations?" she asked. "We have recovered 8,000 survivors from our ships," her executive officer reported. "Another 2,000 are still in pods waiting for pickup. We are also detecting Krellian survivors." Beth nodded slowly. "Rescue them too. Treat them the same as our people. Medical care, food, water. Follow the conventions." The officer looked surprised. "Admiral, they tried to conquer us. They killed 12,000 of our people." "I know," Beth said quietly, "but we are not them. We do not leave people to die in space. Not even our enemies." The order was sent out. Human rescue ships moved through the debris field, collecting escape pods from both sides. Medical teams prepared to treat the wounded, regardless of which species they belonged to. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Parker led a Marine boarding team onto the damaged Krellian flagship Pride of Krellia. The ship was crippled, its engines dead, its weapons destroyed. Marines moved carefully through the corridors, checking for threats. They found Admiral Thalcor on the bridge. He was injured, his scales cracked and bleeding. He looked at the human soldiers with what Amy thought might be fear. "I am Admiral Thalcor," he said in broken English. "I am ready for execution." Amy lowered her weapon. "We don't execute prisoners, Admiral. You will receive medical treatment and then be held until diplomatic arrangements can be made." Thalcor stared at her in confusion. You will not kill me? After what I did?" "No," Amy said. "We have rules about how to treat prisoners, even prisoners who attacked our home." Medics moved forward to treat Thalcor's injuries. The Admiral allowed them to work, still looking confused. In his mind, he had committed an act of war against these beings. He had tried to enslave their planet. By all rights, they should have killed him slowly and painfully, but instead they were giving him medical care. On Earth, President Claire Hoffman addressed the world again. This time her message was different. The fear was gone. In its place was exhaustion and sorrow. "My fellow humans," she began, "the battle is over. The enemy fleet has been destroyed or driven from our system. Earth is safe," she paused. "But the cost was terrible. 12,000 of our people died defending our home. Another 8,000 were wounded. We lost 31 ships and hundreds of defense platforms. Entire families were wiped out. Children lost parents. Parents lost children." Her voice became stronger. "We won because our military fought with courage and skill beyond anything I have ever seen. We won because our people refused to surrender. But mostly we won because we were defending our home. And there is nothing more dangerous than someone fighting for their home." She looked directly into the camera. "To the rest of the galaxy, I say this. We did not want this fight. We did not ask for this war. But when war came to us, we showed what humanity is capable of. Let this be a lesson. Leave us alone. Let us live in peace. Because if you attack us again, the result will be the same." The speech ended. Around the world, people mourned their dead and celebrated their survival. It was a bitter victory. They had won, but the price was high. 3 days later, a Galactic Council diplomatic fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. They broadcast a message requesting permission to enter. They came in peace, they said. They wanted to talk. President Hoffman agreed to meet with them. But she insisted the meeting happen in Earth orbit, not on the surface. And she required that Admiral Beth Crawford and a full military escort be present. The council delegation was led by Ambassador Vornash. He was the ancient being who had tried to warn the Krellians. With him came Dr. Krellick and several other senior council members. They met in a conference room aboard the Earth orbital station. Vornash looked at the humans carefully. President Hoffman sat at the head of the table, flanked by military officers and diplomats. They looked tired but alert. "President Hoffman," Vornash began, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest apologies for what happened. We tried to warn the Krellian Empire, but they did not listen." Claire's expression did not change. "You isolated us. You put a quarantine around our entire system. You knew we were here, but you never contacted us." "Why?" Vornash hesitated. "Because we were afraid of you." "Afraid?" Claire said. "Of us?" Dr. Krellick spoke up. "May I explain, President Hoffman? I am a xenobiologist. I have studied hundreds of species. Humanity is unique in ways that are difficult to describe." "Try," Claire said coldly. Krellick organized his thoughts. Most civilized species developed past their violent phase before they reached the stars. They learned cooperation, peace, and logic. Humanity did the opposite. You reached space while still carrying all your violent instincts. You are the only species we have ever found that invented weapons capable of destroying your own planet, before you invented faster-than-light travel. He pulled up data on a screen. Every other species sees war as a political tool, a way to achieve goals when diplomacy fails. Humans see every war as existential, as a fight for survival. You do not have limited wars. You have total wars. The Singapore incident convinced us to isolate you, Vornash added. When we saw humans rig their own reactor to explode, killing themselves to take pirates with them, we realized you were too dangerous for contact. Claire listened carefully. So you were not protecting us. You were protecting everyone else from us. Yes, Vornash admitted. And I am sorry for that. We should have warned you about the Krellians. We failed in our responsibility. There was a long silence. Finally, Claire spoke. What do you want now? We wish to offer Earth full membership in the Galactic Council, Vornash said. You have proven yourselves to be a powerful military force. We would like you to join our community of civilized species, Claire laughed. It was not a happy sound. You want to contain us. That is what this is really about. You are afraid of us, so you want us inside your organization where you can watch us. Vornash did not deny it. Partly, yes. But also, the galaxy needs to know humans better. This battle proved that isolating you was a mistake. Better to have communication and understanding than ignorance and fear. Defense Secretary Greg Martinez leaned forward. What about the Krellian Empire? Will they face consequences for attacking us without provocation? The Krellian government has already begun paying reparations, Vornash said. Ambassador Zixthor has been arrested for his role in this disaster. The Empire has formally apologized. Admiral Thalcor will face trial under galactic law. We want him tried on Earth, Claire said. By Earth courts under Earth law. He attacked us. We have the right to judge him. Vornash considered this. That is unusual, but given the circumstances, the Council will allow it. Admiral Beth Crawford spoke for the first time. Ambassador, let me be very clear about something. We did not win that battle because we are naturally violent or aggressive. We won because we were defending our home. If the Krellians had left us alone, none of those people would have died. I understand, Vornash said. I don't think you do, Beth continued. You see us as dangerous because we fight hard, but we only fight hard when we must. Most of the time, we just want to live our lives. We want to explore space, learn about other species, and build a better future. But if someone attacks us, if someone threatens our families and our home, then yes, we will fight with everything we have. She stood up, looking directly at Vornash. Don't mistake our capacity for violence with a desire for violence. We are not monsters. We are just people who refuse to be victims. The meeting continued for hours. Eventually, they reached an agreement. Earth would not join the Galactic Council as a full member. Instead, they would establish a special relationship. Earth would maintain complete independence and sovereignty. The Council would recognize human control over not just the Sol system, but a buffer zone of 50 light-years in all directions. In exchange, Earth would agree to establish trade relations and cultural exchanges. They would share some technology and knowledge, and they would promise not to expand aggressively into Council space. It was a compromise. Not perfect, but acceptable to both sides. Admiral Thalcor was tried in an Earth court. He pled guilty to all charges and accepted responsibility for the attack. He was sentenced to life in prison, but would be allowed to serve his sentence in a facility built to accommodate his species' needs. During his trial, he made a statement. I underestimated humanity. I thought they were weak because they were young. I was wrong. They are not weak. They are terrifying. But they are also merciful. They could have killed me. They could have tortured me. Instead, they gave me medical care and a fair trial. I do not understand them, but I respect them. Months passed. Earth began rebuilding. Memorials were erected for the fallen. Families mourned. But life continued. On Mars Colony, an old man watched the news. His name was Jake Morrison. He was the captain from the Singapore incident, the man whose decision to blow up his ship had started everything. A young reporter, Apro,